How's everyone doing? Welcome back. We are 9-4 more. We talk Jaguars football and other news around the NFL. And man, that was a embarrassing game on Sunday, 30-10, Brandon.
Yeah, that was one of the worst games I think I've ever been to for a Jag. Like it wasn't fun.
No, not at all. And the defense, yes, they allowed 30 points. I want to put this out there before anything. They allowed 30 points. But besides that first drive where they even had 2 or 3 sacks, got called back for penalties, they played decent, but they went back out there 30 seconds afterwards because the offense 3 and out, and then offense another 3 and out for them. So they were on the field all day long. So eventually you're going to allow points. You're going to allow a big play. So I really won't put a lot of it on the defense. I thought actually in the first quarter, even the first half, the defense was actually getting a lot of pressure. You saw blitzes. Josh Allen, I think he had 10 sacks. He even had that forced fumble that we didn't recover, unfortunately, but he played pretty well. Damian Wilson, I thought he had his best game as a Jaguar. Did a really good job blitzing, but I'm not putting this game on the defense. Yes, they allowed 30 points, but when you're going out there every 30 seconds, you're going to give up, yards.
Yeah, and half the time too was in our own territory. It seemed like it wasn't even like, okay, we're giving the ball back, but we're giving that where we drove down the field and they're getting at their own 5. It's like, I mean, that Chenault one, they got it right there, and it was, or we couldn't even get at our own 20, and they would return it to like their 40, and they would just start from there, like midfield, pretty much. It was just, that was one of the worst offenses I think like ever the whole year on any game, any team, whatever you want to call it. We only had the ball. I think we only had like 100 yards into the fourth quarter or something like 100 total yards going into the fourth quarter. I don't think I've ever seen that before, like from a team, an NFL team. That's almost unheard of.
No, absolutely. James Robinson, he had not the great day. He had 29 carries. 29 yards and 12 carries on 1 touchdown. So, touchdowns, whatever, fantasy points. But other than that, they were actually stopping him. I think his longest run was like 5 or 6 yards. So they did a good job stopping Robinson. Statistically, Trevor Lawrence, like when it comes to completion wise, had a good day. Like, what was he, like 18 for like 25, something like that? I mean, it wasn't like, he didn't have a lot of incompletions, but he was doing a lot of check down 4 and 5. And I think that's, he had a few, overthrown, a few bad passes, but he had a few drops, and no one was getting open. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then when I hear Urban Meyer talk today, it's kind of sound like he's getting a little frustrated already, and he should be. So I definitely think that after the season, Jags might be looking at a new offensive coordinator, new running back coach, new wide receiver coach, hell, maybe even a new GM, because I really don't think him and Bulky. I think Bulky was just like a 1-year thing. If it worked out, great. If it didn't, they'll find their new GM.
Yeah, I'm 100% tearing away this entire front office except for the defense. The defense needs to get promoted even. Like, I don't know how you could do that even more, but this defense is legit. Like you said, I do not put – this loss was not on Trevor, and this loss was not on the defense. It was lost by play calling, terrible discipline on certain players like Jenkins, and the offensive players can't get open, things like – so this was like purely a coaching, getting your guys prepared, having the guys there to help your team succeed issue. And that was all on the offense. That's offensive front office. Like, that's everybody on, like what you just mentioned, the coaches, Balky, the offensive coordinator, like that's their mistake. And that's been their mistake pretty much all year. Like, minus the Bengals game, that's the only game we looked like an actual NFL offense. And for some reason since then, we have not done that same offense. And I think that's why Urban's upset, was they finally did it. It worked. And then we're not doing it anymore. And I think that's where Urban's getting upset. And then now I don't know what to do. Agnew's now out for the year.
This was an injury game. I mean, he lost Campbell, he lost Griffin, not for the season, but Campbell, Griffin, they'll be back. Cam Robinson will be back. Cisco luckily will be back, but still, you lose your best player besides James Robinson on offense for the year.
Yeah, it was when I saw Campbell go down, I thought he broke something. Like and he's looking good, man. Like, there's no positives in this game except for, I think, Tyson Campbell. I think he has turned the corner because he is playing the ball now. Like, I think he had, I don't know if it were statistically pass breakups, but he basically broke up 2 passes. And he was on one of the plays he allowed to catch was Brandon Ayuk. That was a perfectly thrown screen ball, a slant ball to Ayuk, and Tyson Campbell was all over him. Like 9 out of 10 times, almost the receiver doesn't catch that ball. So to me, that's one of the few things Campbell. So when I saw him go down, I was like, oh, this isn't good. Hopefully he's not out for the year because he's finally showing the growth steps, and we need him to continue to do that. Because if he can do well, man, that will save us a lot of time to go find a cornerback too next year.
Exactly, especially now you have Griffin the opposite side. If he continues, being decent, and then you have Ford in the slot, the nickel position. You're kind of not forced to draft a corner early on. You're not forced to go get one in free agency. You kind of get one maybe in the middle of the draft, or maybe a cheap veteran free agent, but that's not something you have to focus on. So that's huge.
Exactly.
Overall, I think we don't really talk much about the game. We talked about the injuries and the just terrible offense, but I mean, we're cutting into that point where now we got to talk about the draft and free agency. And you see Tim Patrick for the Broncos gets signed. Cortland Sutton gets re-signed by the Broncos. And now, obviously, I want either A-Rob, Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, but I'm not going to get my hopes up for any of those.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of getting to the point where I think you might just have to pull the trigger and re-sign DJ Chark.
Oh, I think DJ Chark's going to
get a guarantee a wide receiver. You have to get a guarantee a wide receiver.
I think, and that's where Chark's going to hold a lot of leverage. Because I think before right when Chark got hurt, we were all talking like, oh, maybe just a 1 year, $6 million a year for Chark. I think he's going to look at this team, because I also think Mike Williams is an option. I think Mike Williams is getting re-signed. Like, I don't think the Chargers are going to let him go. So then the next guy up is basically Michael Gallup, who has done okay for the Cowboys. I get that there's a lot of targets there and they can't all go to him, but he's not a number one guy. He's not better than Chark. I would almost even argue he's maybe not even better than Marvin Jones. So it's pretty much like he's not the guy. So if it's outside of those three guys, I would basically just say pay Chark whatever you want. I would still pay Chark whatever. Like, not whatever, but I think he'll get a Tim Patrick deal, a 3-year, $30 million with maybe like $20 million guaranteed kind of thing,
Yeah.
Because then he'll be young enough still to get that third contract where if he does well on this contract, he's going to get paid pretty handsomely.
Yeah, I can see that. I think maybe we were talking about it yesterday in the tailgate, Tim Patrick money, but now with Cortland Sutton getting paid, the Jaguars desperately needing a number one wide receiver. Even though Chark, he's had his games where he shows number one possibility and then also doesn't. I'm thinking maybe like 4 years, $40 million is fair.
I'd be fine with that.
That's just me. That's about $10 million a year. That'll probably put him 10th or 11th.
Yeah.
I would assume, but yeah. So DJ Chark, who else could we re-sign on the offense?
Well, the big argument that I wouldn't even call it an argument, but I discussed with some people on Twitter today was the whole Cam Robinson and Norwell situation. Because in my opinion, only one of those guys is coming back. I don't think we're going to be able to get both of those guys back. Cam Robinson is going to want close to $20 million a year. He's going to want that 5-year, like $100 million contract with like 70 or 80 guaranteed. I don't think Cam Robinson's that player. I think he's an average left tackle. He would be probably a slightly above average right tackle, like being honest, but he wants to play left. Left tackle gets paid. That's the whole reason with Orlando Brown. He wanted to play left tackle because left tackle gets paid. So he's going to want that money. Cam's not worth that. Norwell's going to want a pretty decent contract. There's a reason he restructured to make his contract end this year and not next year. Next year, he's supposed to get like $16 million, but he restructured with the Jags so that way this year he's a free agent. And I think he knows that because he knows he can get paid again. And the Jaguars are going to be desperate. So then it comes to that. Then it's like, well, if you sign those two, then you may just cut Linder, because Linder has a non-guaranteed $10 million and just put Shatley there. But then you're losing Linder. So that's what I'm saying. This offensive line is going to get picked apart this free agency, and it's going to be who do you think's worth the amount of money for that position. And to me, that's the biggest thing I'm looking for right now, because that will put us where we're drafting, where we're not drafting too.
No, I agree. And then when it comes to the draft, I've been like 50-50. Do I want Evan Neal? I think Evan Neal is going to be a great left tackle in the league.
Yep.
But it's one of those, you got Walker Little in the second round last year. Is he your starting left tackle, or do you just pull the trigger on Evan Neal and hopefully, Walker Little can play right tackle? Because I'm kind of done with the Jawan Taylor right tackle.
He needs to be.
Yeah. He's the worst tackle in the league. It's it's a shame because I was hoping he was going to work out because he showed a lot of promise his rookie year, but ever since then it kind of went downhill. But I mean, when I kind of want edge rusher as well to help the defense out. So I don't know where the Jaguars are going to go in the draft, but I think it's going to come down to who they re-sign and who they go after in free agency. But obviously, they have a lot of holes to fill. They need another wide receiver, offensive
Two. They
line
need
help,
two. They need two wide receivers. They don't need
two
one. They
wide
need
receivers.
two receivers.
I assume free agency and then the draft. I assume they get
Yeah,
that.
that'd be my guess.
That's what I would think. Maybe even 3-2 free agency, one wide receiver. Vice versa. It's two in the draft and one free agency. But this whole wide receiver stat, core needs to be revamped. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if the Jags went ahead and released Marvin Jones after this year, anyways. Just because if they re-sign DJ Chark and they go get another veteran guy, and then you still have Chenault Agnew, and they go ahead and draft two more guys. I mean, I would not be surprised if
we would have to trade Marvin Jones because I think he has like $8 million fully guaranteed this year. It's only like a 2-year deal, but it's like $8 or $9 million like both years. So it wouldn't be a cheap cut. We would have to probably trade him for like a 6th round pick.
Yeah, I can see. And then also I'm looking at safety. Cisco, hopefully is that, that free safety or strong safety, that really, can be that ball hawk. But we have yet to see him play really. He came in yesterday and got hurt based on his first or second play time playing. So I don't know what he is. Jenkins, I talked about the past 2 videos. I think he's gone downhill ever since week 1, and he's kind of like a Jared Wilson. He's just there, doesn't make big plays, doesn't cost you a game, except for this one. It cost
this one. He cost us
throwing a punch.
Yep.
As a captain, he's been fined 4 or 5 times already this year for unsportsmanlike conduct, for taunting, and now does this. Like, you should not be a captain. That's just me though. Yeah. For doing all that stuff. I can understand one unsportsmanlike conduct or just one taunting. That happens when you're hyped up, but consistently every single week, it's getting kind of to the point where I just don't want him on my football team.
He's not even like apologizing for it either. Like, because I don't even know if I follow him honestly, but I see him every now and then pop up, and like he's just mad that he's getting fined. Like, it's not like he's owning up, being like, what, I really shouldn't be doing this. I'm costing the team. I'll stop doing it. It's more of like, here we go, another $14,000 I have to pay. Like, whatever. So it's not even like he's learning from it. He's more pissed off that he's getting these kind of calls on him. So that shows his personality, that it's not me, it's them. And that's not really what you want your captain to be. You want your captain to be like, I'm going to own this. I'll take it. You won't see it again. And yet every week we continue to see it, and we never hear him take blame for it. So I don't know if he came out about the punch. I have heard nothing about him at all. Like, I haven't even seen it. Like we were at the game, and I just watched some of the highlights and some of the tape. I still haven't even seen the punch, because I know the NFL doesn't really like promoting it and stuff like that. But
yeah, just rips the guy's helmet off and then hits him in the face. So, like, I don't understand.
I mean, he's going to get suspended then probably.
The NFL actually came out today saying he won't be suspended. He might not be fine.
But yeah, you can get. We'll save that for another thing with the NFL's like hypocrisy on like how much fines and suspensions and stuff like that maybe. But
I feel like they just pull like a string out of a hat, or like something out of a hat, and like, all right, he's suspended. He's fine.
My favorite thing for this is, like, we'll go off tangent, is South Park's episode where they were talking about like the government bailouts, and literally Stan comes in with a Margaritaville because he's trying to get it refunded for his dad. And it's just a bunch of people just chopping heads off chickens and throw them into a thing. And wherever they stop moving, they're like, that's what we pick. And that seems like what the NFL is doing. Like,
no, that's basically what it is. Because, I mean, what was it, Hayward last night? How he punched Justin Herbert on the ground. Yeah. So we'll see what happens if he gets suspended or a fine. I don't know.
Did you see Brandon Ayuk? Josh Allen tackled him by like the ankles or whatever near the sideline, and he was kind of just laying down. Brandon Ayuk like came out and literally like pushed Josh Allen back down into the ground right in front of the ref. Like, I don't know if you can see where we're sitting, but we were sitting like the other side of the stadium, so we could see it clearly like that. And then I saw it on the highlight, even it was on there. And I was like, well, that's not a penalty, at least a penalty. I'm not saying that should be fine, but literally he shoved our guy into the ground while our guy was trying to get back up. And it's like, but that's okay. But some of this other stuff isn't okay.
Yeah, kind of like we talked about. The NFL, the refs are just, it seems like, I don't know, they just want to throw a flag for the most random times, and just like what was it? That's the first drive, we got the sack on the holding. I can understand holding, but then the offsides, they moved first and then we jumped, and then they called us on offsides.
Well, I think I had more issues. The Smoot looked offsides to me. From what I saw on the thing, Smoot looked offsides.
So he was offside, but the offensive lineman moved, so he jumped in.
See, I didn't see that one. The one I had issue with too was the one Marvin Jones actually got called for a false start. Bosa was way offside. Like it was like his whole body was across the line, and then he was trying to come back. Marvin Jones was the only one that's, I don't know how Taylor didn't, or Walker Little may even been in that one. I don't remember who was out because Cam Robinson left. So whoever was on that right side or left side, whatever it was, didn't even move. But Marvin Jones on the other side of the field saw Bosa literally in the backfield of the Jags. So he moved to get the call, and the refs decided to call it false start.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, that's stupid. Joey Bosa is literally like, it's not even close. It should have been almost just, they should have stopped it right then and there. It was that bad. And they decided to call Marvin Jones false start for it. So it's just a lot of crap, man. It was funny going with Chase. Chase was like, oh, this is my favorite ref. Like, this guy is actually like, is really, really good. And as the game went by, he looked at me and said, I was wrong. Like, there's so many terrible calls that are happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens going forward. The Jaguars face the Atlanta Falcons here in Jacksonville. Hopefully, it's not 49er territory. I assume not. It's probably won't be too crowded just because it's two bad teams. I believe the Falcons are actually favored as of right now by 1 point, I think, flat.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you who's going to win this game. Like, both teams look terrible. This is a terrible week for football. You got Bears and Lions with Andy Dalton starting. I don't even know if Jared Goff is starting. You got the Jags and Falcons, and you got the Jets versus Houston. Like, this is not
Trash Bowl Central for this week.
Yeah, this is red zone. If you're not at the game or whatever, this is a red zone game because they're going to be. This is not good. Not good.
We'll see what happens. Hopefully the Jaguars can put together a win. Just keep going, showing promise, defense getting better. And then hopefully the offense can maybe air it out or just something. Trevor Lawrence did target Marvin Jones early on in the game. John Brown, he didn't catch any of them. They were overthrown. I think the two he did try deep, but at least he was trying. So obviously Marvin Jones, not Marvin Jones, but John Brown is someone that I think is going to get a lot of targets and looks going forward.
I would also look for Treadwell. I think Treadwell is going to start getting some looks. I mean, I don't expect Treadwell to have like a 100-yard game, but I could see Treadwell starting to get those intermediate routes. He's actually doing pretty decent at those. So to me, the guy who I would try to target more is Treadwell, honestly, which is saying a lot about our offense, is that I'm telling Trevor to throw it to Treadwell, who is basically a bust by NFL standards. And it's like, he may be our number one guy besides Dan Arnold right now.
He could be, but the Jags offense it's not good. And hopefully, we're going against a bad Falcons defense, one of the worst in the league. Hopefully the Jags can maybe score more than 20 points. That's asking for a lot, I think, right now, but I just want to see something, man. Bevel has to open up his playbook. Bevel has to know his job is on the line these final 7 weeks. He has to show something. He needs to score more points, put together a better game plan for Trevor and just for the offense in general, and just help the defense out. Don't put the defense in bad spots. Same thing in that the Seahawks game. The defense actually played well, but they kept going on the field every single second. So of course the defense is going to wear out and allow points.
Yeah,
that's how it is.
Well, I don't know. Did we touch on the fact that the 49ers basically made history in the last 21 years?
We didn't talk about that, but you might as well tell everyone.
Literally 21 years, the longest single possession ever by an offense. And since the year 2000, they have this game. And like we said, the defense played well, but just the penalties started adding up and kind of giving the ball. Like, it was just like, I couldn't believe when I saw that stat. And that's why we ended the game so early. The game ended at 3:40.
And I think they were 2 minutes away, if I'm not mistaken, when I was listening to the radio on the Jags radio on the way home, after I dropped everyone off, is that they are 2 minutes and 10 seconds away, something like that, from actually having the longest drive in NFL history.
Yeah, they literally took the entire first quarter. We had 1 minute and 29 seconds, I think it was, when we got the ball. It was absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it, where we almost didn't even have the ball for an entire quarter of the game. And we still held to a field goal. And that's, again, showing props to the defense. They literally were on the field for 12 minutes or whatever it was, and they only gave up a field goal. It's good and bad, but at least there's good. The offense has no good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of sad that it's completely flipped. Of beginning of the year, we kind of thought the offense was going to have to hold us together, but now I'm just when the defense goes out there, I'm like, maybe they can get this that takeaway. Maybe they can get us that stop and, put us in good field position. It's like, kind of want to see the defense out there more than the offense. And that's sad to say, but that's what I look for.
Yeah. Right. Hopefully I think James Robinson was still not 100% healthy is my guess. So I'm hoping with only taking 12 carries this week and I think he had basically the same number last week. This week he's 100% healthy and we just use him, man, because I don't want to throw the ball at all. Like I almost don't want even Trevor to throw the ball more than 20 times against the Falcons. Like ideally, I only want to throw the ball 15 times. And most of those screen passes is Shenault.
Did they actually work? Shenault, besides that fumble, Shenault had his best game of the year. Besides that fumble,
that's exactly what we need to use, and that's what we've been saying all year. Do the Cordell Patterson. Why are you running Shenault 20 yards deep? That's not screen passes. Get him out of the backfield. 6-7
yards every time. That's what he's good at.
Yeah, and it's and it gets the receivers open because they don't have to really even run a route. It's just automatically there, and you have blockers. It just makes sense, and for some reason, we barely do it. We do it 4 times a game and that's it. Well, I get you can't do it all the time, but you would think it works. Keep running it.
Let's see James Robinson
keep running it.
Right. Let's see James Robinson have this week against the Falcons, a Jonathan Taylor versus Bills game, 200 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's what I want to see from James Robinson. I want to see that big game. I want to see 150 plus, 3 touchdown game. That's what I'm looking forward to.
And you should do that against the Falcons. Like you said, their defense is not that great. Their offense is not good at all. Let's just run James
Stop Kyle Pitts, and that's all you got to worry about, in my opinion.
Yep. Cordell Patterson too. He's still I have him in multiple fantasy leagues. He gets yards and he gets touchdowns, especially in the goal line. If we can stop the Falcons from getting into the red zone, because they have weapons in the red zone. They don't have weapons middle of the field or anything like that. But once they get in the red zone, Cordell Patterson and Pitts are very, very good targets in the red zone.
It's going to be an interesting battle. 2 bad teams. We'll see who comes out on top. The Falcons are still in the mix for NFC wild card since the NFC is terrible. It's just how it is.
Right.
But I think Wednesday or Friday, we're putting out our prediction video for this week. But definitely go follow us on Twitter, 904 and more. And thank you all for watching, and go Jags.
Go Jags.